Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai stock market live streams. I see we already have some people in the comments today. Apollo and Layla, can't believe 2025 is already over. We have JC. It went quick, but I always say that. I know time is flying by, especially when you're having fun like we do on these live streams. As everybody tunes in here now, welcome in today, everybody. It seems like the stock market is kind of waiting for the calendar to flip over. We are seeing a pretty dull market today in terms of overall moves from the QQQ, SPY, Dow, and Russell. Hello, Nicole. Welcome to the stream today. I'm glad you guys are finding us here on our altered stream schedule this week in the Prospero Discord, which is actually linked in our YouTube description below. We had some people a little bit sad that the streams got altered. So sorry if that messed with anybody who's tuning in now. This will be our only stream this week. So one stream this week. And then I believe we should be back on the normal schedule of Mondays, 11 a.m. EST, Wednesdays, 3 p.m. EST, going forward from there. Hello, Johnny, saying good afternoon all in the chat. Good to see you today. We have a bunch of great topics to go through. If you guys are excited, smash that like button. Let's try to hit, maybe we could hit our most likes of 2025 here on our last stream of 2025. We'll give it a shot. But I will take you guys through all of the topics, and then George will join me in just a bit, and we will jump on into them in detail. So we're going to talk about the, Nicole said, final stream of 2025. I know the time's flying by, right? Can't believe 2025 is already over. We're going to go over the newsletter that was sent out on Sunday, which shared the 3 weakest sectors that we expect for 2026. So these are sectors you'll probably find in the Prospero short side of the portfolio. And I'll ask George why he believes that these 3 areas of the market will be the weakest environments that we will see. There were some stats going around on social media about Tesla and their Q4 expected delivery numbers, and they are set to be down year over year. And their entire year of 2025 deliveries look like they're going to be down almost 10%. So because Tesla stock has not reacted like deliveries are down. So what can we expect for 2026? Is this down year setting up for a rebound, a springboard perhaps, of deliveries next year? There'll be weak comparisons that every time Tesla reports, so maybe they'll be able to show growth again. Obviously, FSD. I also want to ask George just a little bit more about EVs in general. There doesn't seem to be much buzz for them right now. Just a couple of years ago, it seemed like every car was going to become an EV in the next decade or so. But I want to ask George about his thoughts on the overall EV space at the moment and how excited he is. Obviously, the government's $7,500 credit for each EV purchase was revoked, so that probably has a lot to do with the lack of excitement there. But yeah, we'll cover the EV space. Mario said, hi, I'll go ASTS. Yes, ASTS is up today. Actually, if you guys want to help us out, we have an ASTS short video coming out on all of our socials. We're trying to get the word out for you guys, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Right at the end of the stream today, it'll be coming out, so you guys can jump right from the stream, go and check out that short after and drop a like there too. But yeah, there'll be an ASTS short coming out on all of our socials. Nick is here. What's up, Nick? Good to see you today. Another topic I want to cover is SoftBank. They just completed a $40 billion investment in OpenAI at a about $250 billion valuation. I want to ask George, because I feel like the market weakness in the AI space, the tech space, a lot of the high growth space, I feel like it's all stemmed from this lack of faith in the AI area of the market at the moment, and how because OpenAI has over $1 trillion of commitments and spending, how just the domino effect of it all that we've been covering on the stream. So is this going to give him renewed confidence in that space if he even needs it? Or maybe not. Maybe he'll still be doubtful. Purveyor of the Odd Things. What a name. I love it. Sorry I'm late. You're not too late. Just a few minutes here. We're just going through the topics right now. And in a couple minutes, George will join. And we'll talk about them all in detail. But welcome to the stream today. Another topic, an old friend, a friend of me we have to bring up is AMC stock, because like we've said before on the streams, it's one of the best performing videos on the channel, short videos with tens of thousands of views now. And I think it's over a year old at this point, but it was George calling them, saying they're going into a spiral of debt and probably going to go bankrupt. And just in the last month alone, they're now down 30%. It seems like we're hitting the edge of this debt spiral or bankruptcy spiral that there's no return from it. So we'll get the latest on AMC, um, covering them and their drop in share price. They've had a tough 2025, and I wonder if there's any. What was it? AMC apes left. If you're an AMC ape and you're watching the stream right now, comment in the chat. We're here for you. This is a safe space. Nick said, "Don't forget to join the Discord if you're not already in." Great point, Nick. And we get a lot of our viewers on these streams on Twitter, but you're gonna have to hop on over to YouTube. So go to Prospero AI on YouTube, and it's linked in our description. You could join the Discord right from there. The link should work now. We've had trouble in the past with making sure this link is functional, but I think we finally got it set up so that it's going to be working forever, and it's linked below. All of our socials, our website, everything is actually linked in the YouTube description. So it's a great hub of like all things Prospero, social media wise. So you can check out all the links down there. JC said, George, market maker, touts ASCS and it shoots up, dings AMC and it drops. That's how it works now. That's why you got to tune into the streams. You got to make sure you're listening to what George is saying. He's becoming the shot caller on Wall Street, you know? That's what we're doing here at Prospero these days. A few more topics to go through. We have a story about Instacart and them actually launching a product using AI in a specific way that didn't go over so well. So we'll talk about that, and maybe the fact that people didn't embrace this form of AI. Maybe it's a good sign. Discord, this guy in the chat, can George explain his thought process on why he added BITF? I will definitely ask George when he tunes in. I was a little curious when I saw that too, this guy, because I feel like the crypto space, especially Bitcoin, has been underperforming, and he's liked a neo cloud slash Bitcoin miner in the past called Cipher, CIFR, but I've never heard or seen him do anything with Bitfarms before. So we will definitely ask him about that. We have a lot of topics today, so we'll try to get through them all in the stream. We have Nvidia investing $5 billion in Intel. I want to ask George, did we see a modern day version of a bailout with Intel? Because their company was almost on the AMC path, not quite, but it was really struggling and couldn't really compete with the Nvidias and AMDs of the world and all the chip companies that were leading the way. And then you saw the government support. Now you see Nvidia make a $5 billion investment, and the stock is doing better. So it wasn't quite the same way the banks got bailed out back in the day, but it feels like it's similar in a sense in the fact that their business is now getting a ton of support that is kind of artificial or beyond what they really could have gotten. And if they didn't get it, it probably would have been trouble. Nick said, I think BITF is moving away from mining and going towards AI data centers. That's smart if they are, because I feel like that's the ones that I followed that have been rewarded, like the Irons of the world, have already made those moves. So they're probably following in the footsteps. One of the Bitcoin miners that has been terrible, and it's looked terrible in the Prospero signals for a long time. I think it's actually the miner that owns the most Bitcoin is Marathon. MARA is the ticker. And I was looking at their stock recently, and they have struggled quite a bit. So it seems like the market is not really thrilled with the Bitcoin miners sticking with Bitcoin. And they are rewarded for the AI data center stories that come out. So that would be smart for Bitfarms to do. What's the next story we got to go through? U.S. restaurant traffic actually fell every single month in 2025, except for one. So 11 out of 12 months, restaurant flow was down this year. And Starbucks is closing 400 locations. So I want to ask George, is this the industry, the worst industry, if you were an entrepreneur, business person, to try and start a business in? It seems like a very, very tough place to be. And even with a relatively strong economy, not great for restaurants these days. And it's probably a shifting of trends of people too, with people ordering Uber Eats, Door Dashing, and some people's budgets being more pricier. Maybe they're opting out of eating out at a restaurant. So probably a lot of factors there, but not a great year for 2025 for restaurants. And we've seen some of those popping up in the short signals. One that's notoriously there is Wendy's always looks terrible in our Prospero.ai signals. One last story to go through today that I'll go through now, and then we'll take a look at the QQQ net option sentiment, and George will probably be here in just a moment. But China launched its most extensive war game around Taiwan, and this is not the first time they've done this. It's actually the sixth time they've done this since 2022. So I want to ask George, we've seen the Ukraine-Russia headlines and some other global tensions impact markets. Seems like everybody kind of expects this China, Taiwan, USA situation to, at some point, be an issue, but it hasn't really affected the market or the business world yet. So, do we really have to start pricing it in? Are we going to see headlines in 2026? And is it something that, these headlines are going to start affecting things more than they have? The headlines, you see them, you read them, but they just kind of fade into the distance. So, we'll see if they begin to have an effect. Purveyor said with live fire as well. All right, we will check out the QQQ net option sentiment now, SPY net option sentiment. I believe someone in the Discord today also pointed out that the SPY net option sentiment was higher than QQQ, which that would be the very first time in a while that it would be like that. And yes, it is like that now. So the SPY is at 26 in net option sentiment in Prospero, and the QQQ is at 17. So that is a little bit of a switch here. Interesting. Maybe we'll get some rotation going on in the market as we head off into the new year and people are looking to add new stocks to the portfolio. We have George entering the stream. Hello, George. Last
Hello.
stream of 2025. Can you believe it? The
I
time has
can't.
flown by.
Where did the time go?
Crazy. It is crazy. So we'll be talking about a lot of topics today that have to do with positioning for 2026, the shifting of the markets. And it seems like the market is kind of waiting maybe for the new year because we are not seeing much movement today in the overall indices. QQQ down 0.17%, SPY down 0.08%, Dow down 0.16%. So right across the board, but little to no movement here today. We did just, I don't know if you heard me say, but we did just check out QQQ and SPY net option sentiment in Prospero, and SPY is actually higher than QQQ right now at 26, while QQQ is at 17. What does that tell you? Are you thinking we might see some shifting from tech to other industry sectors that maybe didn't participate as much this year? Are we going to see some rotation to begin the new year? First trading day of 2026 will be Friday. And when the calendar does flip over, are you going to watch to see where the strength is in that initial day, 2 or 3, and factor that bigly on how you're thinking about where the market's going to go for the rest of the year?
I mean, if we see a sustained SPY net option sentiment above QQQ, I think that's interesting. In past years, we've seen sustained values like that, but this year it's really been the QQQ net option sentiment show. So we've seen them kind of switch for a day, maybe 2 days maximum. We'll see if that stays. I don't expect it to, but it would certainly make us rethink how we were doing our portfolio if that was the case.
So in the newsletter, you mentioned the 3 weakest sectors heading into 2026, and they were real estate, energy, and consumer cyclical. So do you want to speak on those at all? Are we going to be seeing stocks in those sectors popping up in the short side of the Prospero portfolio a lot, you think, throughout the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I touched on in that letter is we're really trying to orient our technology and process more this year around longer standing strategies because they're easier to follow and we want to stick with things longer. So yeah, I think something like real estate, getting some long-term bear real estate picks is definitely something that we want to do.
Hey, we just got our first donation ever on the stream from Nicole. Still can't believe this is your final stream of 2025. Thank you for a very insightful stream with you guys. Thank you so much, Nicole. That's very kind of you.
Thank you. I didn't know we could.
Yeah, so to catch up everybody in the chat who watches and enjoys the stream, so we are now in the first phase of YouTube Partner Program. So you can dono, but we are not making money from the ads yet. But very soon, I believe, because the streams are catching on and we are getting a great audience. But appreciate you, Nicole. That's very kind of you. Thanks for kicking us off there with the first dono ever. Where did we leave off? Okay. I wanted to bring up the EV industry today. Tesla, there were some stats going around about Q4 expected delivery numbers to be down quite a bit year over year. So the estimates were as high as a 15% drop in year over year deliveries for Q4. And that would bring the 2025 total to about an 8% drop year over year. Obviously, we have not seen this factor in Tesla. So do you think does it matter the delivery numbers? Do you think this year of resetting the business can be a springboard next year where they'll be able to show growth again? Or is it just going to be the FSD show next year?
I mean, FSD, like the kind of product progress they make on the Tesla bot is going to be really important. Like, I don't think people really view Tesla anymore as a car company. I mean, I think that Elon Musk has done a really good job positioning what they're going to do in robotics as a huge market. And I think, like we talked about with some of these other like frontier tech, like if you look at, say, the Tesla bot versus like a quantum computer, right? We see quantum computers being valued pretty aggressively, right? The Tesla bot's a lot closer, right? And it has someone at the helm that's proven they could bring advanced technologies to market ahead of their time, right? So I don't necessarily think what's going on with Tesla is that crazy, but I think it is crazy to think people are going to think of them as a car company.
I wanted to ask you about the EV space overall too, because so we saw the $7,500 tax credit get revoked this year for EVs, and I feel like there's just no momentum or energy for the EVs nowadays. So just like, what is your thought process on them in particular? And it seemed like years ago people were projecting EVs to dominate the car industry eventually. Do you think that will still occur, or has it kind of reset your thought process there?
I think there was a lot of momentum. Obviously, something like a tax credit, like losing the tax credit, is going to kill the momentum. But it could just, yeah, I agree. There's other markets that are still, I think EVs are the future. I think the US, some other places are dragging their feet a little more than they were previously. But even if you're just talking about, a battery technology versus like a propulsion engine, right? I think we are going to get to the point of technology where like you're going to want to have a battery. You're going to want a battery that has high capacity. And I just like the days are numbered for fuel. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Like, does this mean you should, short ExxonMobil or whatever? Like, I don't think they're that numbered. But I just don't I don't see gas as something that's going to, like, gas powered cars as something that's going to be around in, 10, certainly not 20 years. It just doesn't make sense.
So what do you think of like the Fords or like the GMs of the world? Because it seems like the people who buy those cars are the ones who aren't embracing EVs. And then the companies like Tesla and their, buyers are the ones who are. So do you think those like Fords, GMs are going to be able to make the switch over, you foresee? Or are they going to be left in the dust and kind of like Teslas and these Lucids, Rivians, the startups are going to be the ones that are the next generation of car companies?
I think that's a good question. I don't think they're going to be left behind. I think they will be behind, but you could always see a Ford acquiring or a GM acquiring a Rivian or anything. That tends to be how a company with more capital that might have gotten left behind tends to operate. And I think that's probably where they're at on it.
We got some comments in the chat. It seems like people are still on the side of EVs from everybody that's commented so far. We need way more charging points for them. Yeah, I remember the craze of like the charging stocks too. Like I think it was ChargePoint and a few others came public with SPACs back in the day, but it doesn't seem like any of those stocks have done great either so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really needs to, and this kind of talks, is kind of, we're going in the other direction. It really needs to be a government-led thing, this kind of infrastructure. And you see where governments, China is really doing that. And obviously the European nations, led in that area a lot. But no, I mean, it's kind of hard for an individual company to do that, especially before the car sales are there, right? A company like ChargePoint that's trying to build a bunch of infrastructure before the economics really work, or they don't know when they're going to work. That's a challenge, which is why that's typically the kind of infrastructure that governments build.
Spinning now back to the AI space. So it seems like ever since Michael Burry came out bearishly on the space, there's been uncertainty about it. Well, it just came out that SoftBank has now completed its $40 billion investment in OpenAI, valuing them about $260 billion, so almost or over $250 billion. Does SoftBank continuing with this massive investment, and $40 billion at $260 billion valuation for OpenAI, it's a big equity portion of it and a large commitment. Does that give you more confidence? Did you need confidence in the space to begin with? Are you one of those people who is uncertain about it heading into 2026, or just your overall temperature there and seeing SoftBank go ahead with this massive investment?
Well, I'm uncertain because the market seems uncertain, right? It's a very even if you look at this most recent earnings, it's a very Oracle and I think there was another one that kind of had a tough time, like Broadcom. People are very sensitive. They're very jittery, I think, since the Michael Burry thing, with these valuations as high as they are. We always talk about it. Some of it is just like what's happening in the market, right? Some of it is like when everybody's feeling confident about AI, everybody's feeling confident about AI. But now when everybody's looking over their shoulders, these stocks don't have the same, buy the dip energy. And that's why the SoftBank investment doesn't really matter, right? Because SoftBank is just, they're just another large check in the same large check mill that's like being like, oh, these companies are worth a ton of money. And that was enough for a while. That was enough to keep the momentum going, but it doesn't seem to be enough now. I think there's just fatigue, right? There's no other better way to describe it. I think all these funding rounds, there used to be bigger announcements, but we didn't see the same thing today. And I just think there's fatigue. People are looking for more meat than just there's been a major investment in OpenAI.
So this fatigue has been going on now for a few months, it feels like. Do you expect it to linger throughout the entirety of 2026? Do you have any kind of timeline in mind? And so how could we see this either the momentum re-beginning or a crescendo to some kind of base where we could build off of?
I think we're going to see fatigue / uncertainty until there's more clarity on rates, or what's going on with the Fed. I think the second there's more clarity on rates, AI is going to run again.
Interesting. And I feel like that's, clarity on rates and them dropping is kind of like you said, I think last stream, like a when, not if. So it seems like a good bet if you're going to buy the dip in these stocks that will happen at some point, probably in the middle part or earlier part of 2026, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I do see it as a win. And that's the only question now, right? Do you have confidence in your longs now because that's coming in 6 months? or do you try to get on the right side of this volatility? Because we could see some some dips, and we don't typically like to hold through the dips if we can avoid them.
Mm-hmm. JC commented, Oracle, not a good litmus test for AI. They lagged quite a bit on SaaS service, or was that software as a service, and then started poorly. Not necessarily the trailblazer on new tech.
I agree, but I do think they're a good bellwether on momentum. Like, because recall they had that earnings where they went up like 50% in one earnings report, and I mean it was a good earnings report. But yeah, I kind of look at Oracle because of the points that you're making, because they're behind, right? I kind of view like momentum excitement around Oracle as kind of like an example of how frenzied it was and how that it's not frenzied now.
That's exactly what I thought too. When I saw like the dinosaur Oracle on that earnings, like rallying that much, I was like, oh my God, what is going on in the markets right now? Purveyor said the striking of 115 billion of Oracle contracts doesn't give good confidence along with their CDs. And JC said, good point. So it seems like when it's too good to be true, it probably is. And that Oracle run was the sign of the times at, the probably most we saw like froth in the market. Tim said, don't forget Oracle is supposed to be one of the acquiring companies for TikTok with a 15% stake. Man, that hasn't happened yet. We're almost a year in.
Yeah, like, can you share what the rest of that deal is, Tim? I didn't know that was I haven't kept track of what that complete deal is.
Mm-hmm. When they get back to us, we could cover this quickly. Just another coming back to AMC stock, because it is, you had the bankruptcy spiral prediction, and I think if you tracked the stock performance of the year, we're entering the part of the spiral where there's no return. Because in the last month, we're down like 30% for the stock. And I'm wondering, like, is AMC actually going bankrupt? Like, do you think they're going to have a bankruptcy in 2026?
Oh, damn. I'm trying to look. And the 1 month chart, not good. I don't know. Like, I call it a bankruptcy spiral because I do believe it's inevitable, but I don't know when. You keep having these people buying up the shares, right? It should have been bankrupt already, but retail investors keep on buying up the shares. They keep on inflating the price. They're basically, it's kind of funny how this gets circular sometimes, because retail investors are like, they didn't declare bankruptcy, see, we're right. But it's actually the fiduciary responsibility of the CEO, if they can raise capital, to raise capital. So the people that continue to buy these shares because, they think they're the ones keeping it out of bankruptcy. And I'm not going to be in the business of predicting how long those people are going to do it, because those people are fucking crazy.
Nick said, not with Avengers Doomsday coming out. Maybe after that, though. And Purveyor said, my brother is one of these AMC apes. So what would you say to Purveyor's brother, George, at this point?
Oh, my God. Do you know my history with this, Purveyor? I will give you the cliff notes. When we were working on Prospero's social sentiment signal, I actually started working on it after GameStop, because I was like, there's something here. And it pointed me to AMC. I ended up in this AMC group on Facebook, like 50,000 people. Initially, I was just doing research on social media. And I made a post because I just couldn't. It was so dumb. Everybody was excited about Netflix maybe acquiring them. And they were like, this is the bull thing. And I was like, look, I actually like AMC. I think there's a social sentiment play here. I think there's a potentially short squeeze, also a recovery from COVID play here. I actually like that dual state thing, but shut up about Netflix, right? AMC has a lot of debt. If they got acquired by Netflix, they would be acquired below the price it's trading at. That's how it works. And then it's kind of funny. Everybody was just like, what typically happens in those communities is anyone with any kind of financial knowledge is called a hedgie and, exile. And, so they came at me with their pitchforks and everything. And I was just basically like, what are you talking about? Like, you people just started this little revolution. I've been working on my revolution for a lot longer than you guys. I have the software. I give it away for free. Don't talk to me about, I'm the last person you should accuse of being in cahoots with institutions. And so I actually end up getting kicked out of that. They make me a moderator. I become very popular. And I end up getting kicked out of that group because I refuse to only report good news. They accused me of spreading FUD, and they told me, and by the way, these people were definitely like plants. The longer I was in this, moral of the story is I do believe that AMC was a distraction hatched by financial institutions to get people to sell their GameStop and buy something else. Because the people that were the moderators of that group, I could never get, they didn't have real Facebook profiles. I could never get them. We tried to get them on calls. Anyway, I ended up getting kicked out of that group. I started a group called The Truth About AMC or something else. And all these people start coming to my group. Within like a few weeks, like 5,000 people are in the group, and it keeps growing. And then all these people from that other group that think we are trying to like ruin the movement start reporting our group for false news, which is hilarious because we were the only ones telling the truth. We got shadow banned by Facebook. And the funniest part of this story is one of the people that came to antagonize me in that group. I don't think Marshall watches this. Shout out to Marshall. If he ever does, I might send him this. He came into that group to antagonize me, and I love his arc the most of any of the moderators. Most of the moderators I had some like in my group, we had some argument with, and I was like, okay, we could disagree respectfully, come into the inner circle. But by the end of that, Marshall was like he was the person that got extracted from the cult that was then going back in to try to explain to people. And he did more like deeper research than I did. He went really down the rabbit hole of like all these. He actually exposed me to the theory that AMC was like some good evidence that AMC was a distraction from GameStop. But the tragedy of all of this is that people keep, for years and years, this pretty immoral cult continues to like recruit new people, be like, the short squeeze is coming. We got them. Here it is. The short squeeze is dead. The company has diluted massive amounts. Adam Aaron was always in cahoots. One of the first things that got people mad about is I pointed out his connections with Goldman Sachs, and he made a private share sale to Goldman Sachs at one point to dilute. Silver Lake Partners, he has close ties with a lot of ex-Goldman people. He was a partner at Apollo, or high up at Apollo for many years, a very sharky financial institution. He is not going to let any of you have a short squeeze, everyone. And there is no recovery play. There is nothing to win. They really executed an excellent distraction from GameStop. But there is no reason to own AMC stock. No reason. It is a horrible stock, a horrible company. I hope I can get as many people out of this cult as possible.
I think you may struggle. And I also think this whole AMC thing, it's a fascinating look at like human psychology. It's like once someone buys into a story or a narrative about something and you like join a team, like how people have with AMC, you just can't get them to like change their mind. They're locked in. It's crazy. And it's fascinating stuff. And Nick said, I like this stock. You sold him. He's going to buy some AMC after.
That's the first time I did that like whole AMC story in a while.
Yeah, I think that might have to be a full video because I've actually never heard some of the stuff you just shared too, like the whole background of it. That was cool to hear. But yeah, I'm sure the next time we bring up AMC, if I had to guess, the share price will probably be lower. So we'll see. Moving on now to Instacart. a stock we haven't talked about a lot. They were testing out an AI feature for their product where they could give people different prices based on different data that they had collected. And people really hated this because you'd have, people buying the same product at different prices. So obviously the people who were buying them for more expensive didn't like it. And they actually pulled back this product. And are you happy to see that this type of like use of AI wasn't embraced by people, and the fact that Instacart would remove it? And is that a good sign? Because I think that type of feature is like what people fear with AI, like the data collection and then all of that type of stuff. So how do you feel about that story?
Um, I think companies should do that. Like, I don't think they should be gouging people that can't afford it, which is like where it goes. But like, let me say what I like about it in theory. I think in theory, if it could allow people that could afford less to pay less and people that could afford more to pay more, and it equaled out like that, I would like that. Unfortunately, I think it's probably just everybody having the same floor and some people having a different ceiling, and that's shitty. I don't support that. But if they actually wanted a story to be good, like that would be the way to do it. Like, and people are so selfish. I remember talking to this billionaire once about I used to, when I did AI as a service, talking about like efficiency algorithms and AI to make his farm workers do better. And I was basically like, you could use, camera technology in the right incentives to increase output overall. Like, it was an optimization problem that I was pitching him. And this was in an underdeveloped nation. And he looked at me, he's like, these people make $1 a day. I don't care. I don't need to offer them anything else. They're fine with their dollar. And he was so like the idea, and I think kind of like what he was getting at, where it's like, oh, we're giving them so much with this $1 a day. Like, we're already blessing their lives. Like, he couldn't even get to the other side of what I was telling him, which was the incentives would only be implemented if they ultimately created more production. Like, he could not get past that. And that is one of the biggest problems with capitalism right there, because this is another situation where you could even be like, hey, I'm actually going to charge people that really need it 25% less. So a bunch of people could get charged about 50% more. And then you make, just simple math, 25% more, but you don't have that same optics problem, right? If you're like, need-based people are paying lower prices, but people are so obsessed with the idea of not, and this is the tie, not giving anyone anything that you do not have to give them, that they actually miss out on more money because they're so obsessed with the idea that you shouldn't give anyone anything that you don't have to give them.
See, I feel like an idea like that sounds good in theory, but then humans and the opportunistic humans that we are, you'll have a bunch of people that are like wealthy, just like maybe not a bunch, but you'll have some percentage that are just signing up, faking like data, like getting the cheaper prices, and then that skews like everything. And I don't know, I feel like there's just problems like that arise.
You could hook it up to, if you wanted to do it well, you could hook it up to tax systems. You could have them prove a certain like income level with the W-2 or like whatever, like, and I mean, that's the thing. Like, in theory that could happen, but it's kind of like a sad statement if a wealthy person is spending a bunch of their supposedly valuable time to try and get cheaper things. I don't think you could do some verifications. It would work. Nobody wants to do it because of what I just said. Nobody ever wants to lower prices for someone. Even if it means they can raise prices on other people, they don't want to lower the prices for some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting discussion, but I want to move us on because we're shortly running out of time because we've had some great topics already today. But I want to bring up this story about NVIDIA making a $5 billion investment in Intel. And I'm curious on your thoughts, George. Did Intel receive a modern day bailout in the past year with NVIDIA making this investment and the United States government taking a stake? It's not so similar as like the banks back in the day, but Intel was in big trouble, it seemed like, with their stock price until all of this came about, which was kind of, you could say, is artificial kind of support for their business. But I don't know. What do you think?
Oh yeah, it definitely got a bailout, and it definitely was spearheaded by the government, right? I mean, I don't think Jensen Huang's making that investment uh, without a call from Donald Trump or a Trump associate. Yeah, I mean, I do think, I mean, bailouts happen all the time, but you know me, I'm a broken record on this. What I don't like is for companies to get bailed out and then people not to get bailed out. We have this like healthcare premium situation, like all that stuff. It sucks when we talk about ourselves as unable to do any socialism until companies need socialism or certain groups or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's a bailout. Like my attitude, I mean, too big to fail was too big to fail. People probably have heard me. For those that don't know, there used to be a law called Glass-Steagall that was passed in 1920. That was passed after the Great Depression. That made it so investment banks couldn't gamble with the money of personal savings. Right? Great law. Reasons unknown, it was repealed in 1993. I mean, not reasons unknown, corruption. That was one of the things that led to the '08 crash. So unfortunately, we can't have banks going under if they're gambling people's savings, right? So that is too big to fail. Other than that, I don't know why we didn't let the car companies fail. All these companies, they should fail. If they can't make it, they should fail. Like, what is this weird capitalism charity thing that we're doing? Like, because what happens if car companies die, if airlines die, if bad chip makers die? It makes room for new ones, right? I bet if we let those car companies fail, even other than Tesla, we'd have a leaner, meaner, more modern car company that would have sprung up without all that, like, pension bullshit. We're basically keeping alive businesses that don't work. Let them die. Better ones will rise up. I wish we could do that with banks. I wish we could let the banks die. I wish they weren't too big to fail. Like, those banks should have all died. And better banks emerge, more responsible banks. But that's not how it works, because there's socialism for corporations in this country, and there's laws passed to make corporations harder to let fail. But don't feel like there's a lot of good laws passed to keep everyday people out of bankruptcy either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great explanation there. Spiky Dude's loving it too in the chat. Said great take. Tim said Intel products have some faulty hardware issues for almost a decade and it was never fixed. The bailout is strategic. Tim also said that their connection with the government of like how many Intel products that they use with data collection and cybersecurity, like that could be a reason why they would bail out Intel as well, maybe versus other companies.
My answer does not change. They
Mm-hmm.
should die.
I kind of agree. It's like, yeah, where is this? Like yeah, you said it well, so I won't add to it, but I agree with your take there. Moving on to the next topic I have for you. I wanted to bring up Open Door on the stream today, the stock that had its own meme rally
Yeah,
over the course of this summer.
what's
It
going
is
on with that
now
thing?
kind of trending sideways and downwards over the past couple months. It's actually the lowest point it's been since September, which is when they did a change in management there. Are you interested at this company at all? Obviously, real estate was one of the three sectors you didn't like heading into 2026, but um, maybe with the social push behind Open Door, and you'll have other thoughts about it or
Net
not.
option
But
sentiment is in a nice trend, but no, I mean, let's put it this way. If I don't feel good about AI stocks in this market, I especially don't feel good about meme stocks in this market.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, but that it's kind of like what you've said before on the streams, where like in growth times you want to invest in the highest growth companies, and you don't want to get like conservative in times of weakness. You want to like add more shorts. So what stocks do excite you on the long side at this moment? I'm assuming ASTS and LEU are still exciting to you, but any others like of growth versus value at this point? How are you feeling besides those two that we've mentioned a lot recently?
I mean, I was just on a stream with Wolf before this. I think Google, Apple, and Meta, those two stocks, those are my favorite stocks right now. I'm just going to cruise through and see. Um, cruise through and see if there's.
So just from those companies that you listed, it is still like tech, but it's the mega cap techs that have, great businesses regardless kind of what's going on. It's not the ones that have like exciting potential future businesses really.
Yeah, I mean, I like Poet as a newer company. One of the other things that I was saying is I think there was a question about BITF. I'm watching crypto stuff. I do think, I mean, BITF's a $1.4 billion market cap, I believe. And I saw it doing well in momentum score. And let me just 77 at option sentiment, 74 upside. That's what attracted me to it. I like the net option sentiment chart. I think it's trending up. Upside looks good too. I think there's money to be made on a crypto rebound.
So you're going to become a Bitcoin bull in 2026.
Well, I need the right conditions, but yeah, I think there's an opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are quickly running out of time here, but we've had a great stream today. A lot of people tuning in. The chat was popping, even though we didn't even have a crazy amount of viewers like as usual. But thank you guys for participating. George, you'll do the switch over. We'll catch you on the
Yep.
other side. Everybody stick with me. We're gonna do the model portfolio update when George tunes back in. Sorry if you guys were excited we had two topics we didn't get to today: U.S. restaurant industry and Starbucks closing stores, and the China and Taiwan situation. So if anybody wants to hear us discuss either of those next stream, just say so in the chat right now, and I'll remember to bring them back up the next time we'll be live, which will be Monday at 11 a.m. next week. Mario said, "Thanks for a great year. You made me some money." Glad to hear it, Mario. That's awesome. That's what the streams and Prospero is all about. So that's great. If anybody's new to the stream and is watching, appreciate you being here. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. We are going to do the model portfolio update now where George does live moves in the model portfolio. So let's take a look at QQQ and SPY net option sentiment again and see if anything has switched since we checked on them last. The market is still doing a whole lot of nothing. Wow, what a dull day. Purveyor said, I came into Prospero late this year, so looking forward to having a full year with you guys. Let's go. That's awesome. Nick said, looking forward to the next couple Prospero product releases. Yes, it's going to be, I think the trade alert should be coming back to the Prospero app pretty soon in the new year. So that will be good for everybody. That was part of our Republic crowd fund. Tim said, by the way, what's the process of adding new stocks to Prospero? So Tim, if you go to the Discord, there is a channel in our Discord that is specifically for adding tickers to it. And yes, there's Nick answering you. So yeah, you could add that's the best way to have the tickers added in that channel. And then every now and again, George does a cycle through and adds them into Prospero. So yeah, that's the best way. You are welcome. All right, I got to look at SPY and QQQ. I got distracted to see if they are the same as before, if SPY is still above the QQQ. Yeah, not much movement in the overall signals. SPY is still, oh, we just got an update. SPY is at 31 and QQQ is at 16. So SPY approaching the bull bear line of 40, doing its best chance to get there. If I had to guess, I feel like we'll probably see another trading day like today, tomorrow, where everybody's kind of waiting for 2026.
What were those SPY and QQQ again?
SPY is at 31 now, and QQQ is at 16.
Wow. Oh, I got it.
Purveyor just commented, I found NOS to be very helpful on when and when not to trade.
Us too.
JC said, looks like Santa has left the building, but we still have until end of day Monday. I think Santa's on vacation. He had a busy week last week. He's probably in the Bahamas.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, we just got another dono from Nicole. Thank you, George and Stephen. May 2026 be full of blessings to all of us, prosperity to you and Prospero.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. That's very kind of you. Larger caps seem to be doing better, but the only standout here is that scratch that, fair opportunity in small caps.
We're going to do lazy things today. Sometimes we do that.
Avnish is asking about ticker ES in the chat. Looks like it's got pretty bearish signals in Prospero. 71 downside versus 39 upside.
ES?
Yes, ES.
I think we can look at that at the end. We kind of have to, like, we're short on time. Can you look at BLRX net option sentiment, Stephen?
Yep. Currently at 43 and very stable.
How about STRA?
$37 and downtrending. Uzi asked from Twitter, if you have time, how are y'all feeling about BTC? Well, we were just chatting about Bitfarms just a moment ago. It seems like George is maybe thinking there could be some momentum coming back into crypto a bit, if the conditions are right.
I'm not too confident. I like the Bitfarm momentum, but I'll get out of it really quick if it doesn't materialize. I'm not super sure that we've reached the bottom, but I do want to try to catch it if we did. And I've got my eye out on it.
Wow, we just got a big update in NOS. QQQ is now at 38 and SPY is at 28.
See, I told you it wouldn't last very long.
Flip flop, flip flop. JC's right. He's commenting in the chat.
I have to change the title. We've never had to do that.
Every time it flips back and forth, we just have to add a flip flop, flip flop, flip flop. So Avnish asked, what is that? So we're referencing net option sentiment, which is in the Prospero app for the SPY and QQQ.
What?
I was just answering Avnish. Avnish.
Oh, look at our old friend DNA.
So Avnish is asking, so sentiment is low. Our bull bear line for SPY and QQQ is 40, and they've been fairly low. So I wouldn't necessarily say sentiment is low with these levels now, would you, George?
No.
It's kind of like lukewarm.
But it's volatile. I wouldn't read it like you need to like see a pattern is what I would recommend. Like I want to see consistency. All right, we're going to do this. But then I also want do we have Rigetti? We don't have Rigetti. No. Okay, we are done. They changed this. Okay. All right. Any last questions?
Avnish was just saying, but your signals are still bearish on ES. So yes, I don't know if you've downloaded the Prospero app yet, but if you have, you could check it out right in there. And downside is 71 and upside 39. So I think any stock that has a downside that much above upside is going to be looking pretty bearish in the signals. JC, Happy New Year. Nick said Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Another year in the books. We'll see everybody back here Monday, 11 a.m. for our first stream of 2026. So thank you, George. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nicole, for the donations today. That was awesome. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye, everybody.